Hi guys, it's Mike 5 from Nights and Nights, your favourite independent record label. Thanks for all the great feedback on the podcast so far, and in particular the Deal or No Deal track we put out last week, which was just a bit of fun, but you really seemed to enjoy it, so cheers. This week on the Inner Sleeve podcast, we're discussing who we make music for. Is your music aimed at a specific audience, a group of friends or family maybe, or do you just do it for yourself? I guess in a way, we probably all want someone to hear what we're doing, right? But then again, isn't that sort of for ourselves as well? Because that makes us feel good. Anyway, we unpick that a bit. We have a bit of a laugh in the process. If you like what you hear, please do subscribe to the podcast and check out the label. Cheers. Let's go, Gozer. Who do you make music for?
Well, maybe all of the above, really, but primarily for myself, because really, really, it's a selfish enterprise, isn't it? I'm trying to express myself, which is inherently self-indulgent, but at the same time, I'm trying to exercise a whole load of stuff from my mind as well, and in the first instance, I'm doing it for me because it's one of my coping mechanisms with the world. I have to break everything right down and sort of remake it in a way that I can control and understand and, interpret things that way. So that process of sort of like deconstruction, reconstruction, creativity, all of that is, as I was saying actually in the mental health episode of this podcast, it's kind of key to my personality and how I function on an everyday basis. Is that to stay sane, I have to create, and music is, for me, it's the ultimate outlet because it can go in so many different directions, and really the only limit is the tools that I have to hand at any one time, and other than that, it's just my imagination. So yeah, it's me that I'm making music for, but of course I want people to hear it and hopefully get something from it and respond to it and connect with it and see something of themselves in it and give people something to to sustain them, to help them, to get them through that moment of the day, whatever it is. In the same way that so many of the artists that I really love have done that for me completely without their knowledge, obviously. But that's what I'm striving for, I think. That's what I'm hoping for, is that I can create enough good stuff that resonates with people, and helps us all get on through life, But yeah,
There's a really interesting, there's lots of interesting points there, right? But the one that strikes me is actually the latter part of that. I'm always curious as to why we as musicians want other people to feel something. It's like, because I think, well, I don't know, Grim, you might say I don't give a shit. So maybe there's, what do you think? But I want to come back to that idea of why and what, not just who we're making it for, but what and why and all that sort of stuff. But go on, what about you, Grim?
Well, the way I see it is, well, okay, right. If you want to answer the question, let's say we answer that question first. Why do we want someone else to feel something? I think it's there's a twofold answer to that. The first one being that most musicians, almost all of them, I imagine, were just surrounded by music from a very early age, and no matter what was going on, and no matter how lonely they got, no matter how sad or angry or whatever they got, music was always there, and it felt like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, as close to a fucking emotional counselor as you could possibly get in all those major stages throughout your life. And
yeah,
if you can share that with someone else, why the fuck wouldn't that's what that moment that you have when you're the teenager and you're so wrapped up in yourself and you're so fucking assured of your own, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to anyone ever. No one will ever feel like this ever again. And then you're listening to the song, and the song just, there's nothing else that feels like that song speaking to you in that moment. Why would you not want someone else to feel that? And it leads me right on to my point of who am I making music for? I have this song that I released years ago called Stain Bears Fruit. It's like the last song on my album, I'm Counting to Three. And it is not a happy song. It is not a happy, it's a one of those heart-wrenching kind of self-deprecating breakup. My life has fallen apart, and it's partially because of this one person that is no longer a part of my life, but I'm still, that I'm pining for, and also kind of glad that it's over, and all those sorts of,
that
clashing
sounds
emotions.
like the longest title for a country song that I've ever heard.
Yeah, man. Which is interesting because it was essentially me trying to write a country song, but I put that song out, right? And it was at the early stages of being able to see the analytics on Spotify whenever you put songs out and stuff. And I just noticed there was like 12 people in this little town in Italy that were just listening to the song all the fucking time. I don't know why. I don't know what it was. They were just, weeks after weeks, I was just getting this little town in Italy where these 12 people were just listening to the song over and over again. And at the start, it was kind of like, oh, that's awesome. 12 people in Italy. That's amazing. That's, something that I could never have imagined before. And then after a while, I started to go, Jesus, I hope they're okay.
Are they all right?
Yeah. Are they okay? Because that's not a happy song. They keep listening to it. And so those 12 people in Italy, that's who I make music for. Nobody else.
Well, Jesus only needed 12 disciples.
Well, indeed, yeah.
So there you go. Grimm and his 12 Italian villages.
Yeah. And according to the Bible, all of Jesus' 12 disciples, they all spoke Latin. That's pretty close to Italian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and you've got a beard, and Jesus probably had a beard.
Yeah,
I see where you're going with this.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the parallels are uncanny.
I've turned a few jugs of water into wine in my day. By stealing wine.
Outstanding. I love that.
So, but actually, the other thing that I was going to say, and this is my other point about an audience, is I have this, because I know I do the morning coffee videos that I put on every fucking video site that I can find, and it's like my thing about the internet. And if we go back to another callback to a fucking previous episode, the thing about the internet is, even if no physical human being is watching, the internet provides a surrogate audience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You remember the film Man on the Moon about Andy Kaufman?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it starts off with him performing a show for his bedroom wall as a kid. You remember that bit?
Vaguely.
I
do.
I genuinely think on some level that if that was all I had that was afforded to me, I'd probably just perform to my bedroom wall. But the internet gives me this sort of virtual surrogate audience, even if nobody's actually watching, where I can just keep fucking churning stuff out, whether people want to hear it or not. And I'm perfectly okay with that, if I'm completely honest. You know what I mean?
Well, you remember the film The Commitments, where he's
in the bath,
by Terry Wogan in the bath.
Yeah.
This also reminds me of years ago, before I was out gigging really seriously. I would write songs, and the first person to ever hear them would always be my dog. And I would just play songs to my now dearly departed dog Bailey, and he would always, without doubt, like wag his tail once, then look really sad, and then go to sleep.
Oh.
You're like, okay, yeah. Well, you couldn't. Would it have killed you to stay awake for the whole song? That sort of thing. But yeah,
there's a theory, there's a thing that goes around the internet. I think it's actually from like an episode of Friends or something, right? But the idea that there's no such thing as a selfless act,
Uh-huh.
and I say it's from Friends, and I'm sure they ripped it from somewhere else. I'm sure it's not.
It sounds a bit too philosophical for
I was going to
Friends.
say, yeah. As I say, it's for Friends. It's
Yeah.
No, they did do one of those in Friends, because it culminates with Phoebe letting a bee sting her.
Right.
And she thinks this is a genuinely selfless act, and that they point out that
But hang on. There's a massive revelation here, which is that Grimm is some kind of Friends super fan.
Incredible,
What?
isn't it?
oh yeah,
That's
fucking I would
unbelievable.
religiously watch that show. Yeah,
Could
over
I
and over.
be any more surprised?
Maybe.
Wow. But the idea is that whenever you do something supposedly selfless, you actually feel good about it,
Mm.
and therefore it's not selfless because you're making yourself feel good. And I feel like there's something like that, because I don't think consciously that I make music for myself. I like to make music for all the reasons actually that you guys said. It's that you grow up surrounded by it. It's such an important part of everything in your life, and I want to be part of that and share that, and tell people what I think and why I think it, and kind of rally people along and get them to feel something, all that kind of stuff. But the flip side of that is I do all that because it makes me feel good, right? So I kind of do it for myself, in that sense, because if it didn't make me feel good, I guess I wouldn't want that reaction. So it's one of those. It's a really interesting. I don't know why we decided to pick this topic, but I'm glad we did, because it's one of those kind of circular things where you go, "Well, how is everything?" And just, but I do feel like there is an innate. The people that I know that take music really seriously, you guys obviously very much among those, and others as well. But the people who really do write and create and just can't not do that, I think do it because they can't not do it. Whereas I've got a mate, a good friend of mine, lives down the road. He's got a couple of synthesizers. Occasionally does some stuff. Occasionally shares it. Goes, "Oh, what do you think of this? You run a record label." I was like, "Yeah, it's good, mate." But that's as far as it goes, right? But he's not sitting there in every moment that he has outside of the other things that take over your thoughts, your family, your work, your whatever. He's not sitting there going, "I wonder what that would sound like if I changed the key," or whatever. Whereas most of us are kind of obsessed, and it's that kind of obsession with music is the reason you write it and record it and share it and put it out there. Because I think you want I personally want other people to be as obsessed with those things as I am. Like I don't think I'm an amazing musician, but I think I'm more of a musician as a musician. I think more musicians like my music than normal people, if you like, right? And I don't mind. I like that. I'm quite happy with that, because I like to do little tricky things that kind of I think are cool and original that most people wouldn't notice. And my wife, who's not a musician, would go, "Oh yeah, that's good." Whereas someone else would go, "Oh, I like music with that backing vocal," or whatever. I like that, right? That's my kind of thing. But I think whatever your thing is, whatever your your niche, if you like, or your space in this, your little bit that you carve out, it's the obsession. So actually, it's for you and for everyone, because you can't not do it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
What
I
would it
think,
be without it? Nothing.
yeah. There's something to what both of you have said that resonated with me actually. So Grim, you said something about how music is like a crutch for you in times of emotional turmoil and all that. Is always there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And all that sort of thing. But it isn't just that, is it? It's like there are songs have a unique ability to like immediately catapult you back to a specific moment or feeling in time, don't they? And there are songs that I can hear 100 times, but like it's one specific time that I heard it and the context in which I heard it that I will always think about every single time I hear that song after that. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's quite a powerful thing that I think about a lot. And it's like I'd love for one of my you have no control over this, but I would love it if one of my songs exists for somebody out there who and like is attached to an incredibly happy memory or is attached to a time they had, a really vivid moment in their life that they'll always remember. That you'll never know about that most likely, but that kind of idea is so powerful because there are some songs that you just carry with you throughout your whole life, and you hear them again and again, and they just keep resonating even more deeply with you as the years go on. And I think that's you know that's what I'm striving for, is like I'd
Yeah,
love to write a song like that one day.
yeah,
That's
like I'll Be There For You by the Rembrandts.
yeah, sure, exactly like that. Or Smelly Cat.
Oh, that's a better one. That's a better one. I was trying to think of a
it's
Friends-based
like it's
song that
like
was silly,
Friends
and
reference
then
poker.
yeah, and that was a better one. Well done. Kudos to you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Cheers. But yeah, there you go. So who knows? Who knows? But I still think there is something to it. You don't know who your audience are, even in this day and age, and people are listening to your stuff, and who knows what kind of experiences they have. Probably a whole bunch of people out there who, they might have been playing one of my songs in the car and they had a car crash. Now they forever uh, associate Running with the Outliers with the time they almost died or something like that. You know what I mean? It goes both ways, I guess.
Sort of like every time I listen to T-Rex, I think about car crashes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that took me a little bit.
Yeah, Mike, a little slow there, Mike, but you got there.
Little slow. I genuinely I have a weird story about car crash music, which is that when I was younger, I had a really old car. It was 13 years old. And I owned it for 2 years. I paid 350 quid for the car, and over 2 years, I spent nearly 2 grand on repairs. So the clutch went, and I thought, no, I'm not spending it, even though it's 50 quid or whatever. I'm not spending another penny on this bloody car. And my mate, who had failed all his A levels, his parents had bought him a car to say, well done for passing your A levels. And they said, well, you're not fucking having it because you failed on your A levels, right? So I bought my mate's car off his parents.
That's kind of tragic in its own way.
I used to drive around in it. But anyway, it was actually funny enough with him in the car. We went and played pool somewhere, and we're driving back. I had this car 10 days. I paid £1,000 for it, right? So £100 a day is what that car cost me. Hit a pothole. Slid down a ditch. The car I was trying to climb back up the ditch and it kept slipping down because it was muddy. So the car was basically playing pinball with trees on the side, and then in front of me was a big tree. And I thought, oh fuck, here we go. We smashed into this big tree in front of us. The car 180'd, not on its roof, but like 180, so it's facing the other way. And I looked over to my mate after the chaos. And the ears stopped ringing, and I said, you okay? He went, yeah, my leg's muddy because there's a hole in the door. I'm all right. I said, okay. He said, are you okay? I said, yeah, I think so. I'm all right. He goes, we better get out of the car because it's on fire. I was like, okay. So he stepped out of the car, and he stepped out onto the road because the car had 180. I stepped out of the car and fell down the ditch and got covered in steam metals, which was really painful. But the memory of that is in the car we were playing Right Next Door to Hell by Guns N' Roses when that crash happened. And the weird thing was, right, this is this is 20 years ago, say, right? So, that's 20 years after that came out, roughly, or whatever, somewhere in that region. So we're playing this song. It's not like it's a brand new song or anything. Someone else, when we were out the car, drove up the road and slowed down to see if we were okay. And blasting out of their speakers was Right Next Door to Hell by Guns N' Roses. Someone I've never met before or since. I stopped to see if we were okay. Went, yeah, it's right. We've got police on the way or whatever. We've done something at that point. We weren't drunk or anything, by the way. It's just I was a shit driver. But yeah, so he was playing completely randomly the exact song that I was playing when we crashed that car 10 minutes before. And I thought that was totally weird. And I can't listen to
that is totally weird
about that car crash.
The only way that story could have been any better is if the person driving the car who came to your aid, they wound the window down and it was Axl Rose. That would have
Yes.
been good, wouldn't it?
That would have been brilliant, yeah.
That
We
would have been a proper story.
It may have been the only time when he turned up at the right time.
Thanks for listening to the Inner Sleeve podcast. If you like what you hear, please do subscribe and check out headlightsandwhitelines.com to find out more about Lights and Lines, your favourite independent record label. Cheers, guys.